This is the story of the agricultural revolution. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my name in the top right corner. And we're not going to write too big today. The name of the game is to get this all on one page, and so we have to write kind of small. Across the top, I'm going to put my title. And this is the story of the agricultural revolution. And this is the time period in history when people stopped being nomadic and they started living in towns and cities, and they started to farm. So agricultural means farm, revolution means big change. So this is a big change when we started farming. Okay? Underneath this, I'm going to have you put a star, and you're going to write the word turning point, and you're going to underline it. This is a really important term that you need to know for the Standard 4 quiz. Okay? I guarantee you 100% that it's going to be on the quiz. A turning point is a big event that changes everything. Life is never the same again. Okay? Why don't you pause this video until you have all of that written down on your page. Okay. Now in the top left corner, you're going to write Neolithic Period. Neolithic means New Stone Age. And if you read it in a text, it basically means the same thing as the agricultural revolution. It's the time period where people started living in cities and using more advanced tools, and when they started farming. All right, now I'm going to go down on the left-hand side of my page about halfway, and I'm going to write Neolithic Period begins. And when we tell our story to someone else about the agricultural revolution, this is where on our mind map you're going to start telling the story. Okay? So the Neolithic period is when hunters and gatherers stayed in one place. This is called settlement. So we're going to draw a picture here of a farm. Now, the point of this is to not show how wonderful of an artist you are. It's just to get the idea that the lifestyles of people are changing. So maybe I have some wheat over here, and maybe I have some corn. And I have a happy little bird in my background. And this is where farming begins. Go ahead and pause here, and when you're done, we'll move on. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is draw a short little arrow under the tree, and next to it, you're going to write the word domestication. Domestication is the taming of plants and animals for human use. And you're going to read this week about lots of different plants and animals that people domesticated in this time period. We're just going to show a couple of them here on our mind map. And the first one that we're going to do is a sheep. And you're going to see that I am not a special, amazing artist. But the sheep says, "Bah," and that's how I know he's a sheep. And sheep if you've ever played Minecraft, know that they give people wool and mutton or meat. It's important that you know not just what kinds of animals were domesticated, but how they helped people. So we need to know both that sheep were domesticated and that they give us wool and meat. The next animal I'm going to show here is a donkey. I'm going to try to make his neck not look too much like a dinosaur's. See, he's got a lovely mane here. Okay. And donkeys say hee-haw. And they helped to pull carts and heavy loads long distances for humans. So I'm just going to write, I pull carts. Because if you had to carry a large load of stones or bricks, you would want the donkey to help you instead of doing it yourself. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a cow. And the way that I differentiate my cow is by giving him splotches. Okay, and then here's his head. Okay. And cows have udders to give us milk, but they still have tails. Okay, and cows say moo. Cows give us milk and meat, and they provide leather from their hides. Okay, pause this, get caught up, and then start again and we'll move on. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sort of a short-ish arrow going straight up from the word taming. And then we're going to find like the halfway spot in our paper. And I'm going to go up from my arrow about 2.5 fingers, and I'm going to write this sentence that says, a surplus is created. And a surplus means extra. So more than what you need. You have more than enough. And when people started farming and living in settlements, they domesticated more than just animals. They also domesticated plants for growing crops. And what they grew would change depending on where they were and what their climate and geography was like. But some of the things that we saw domesticated in this time are carrots, potatoes, grains like wheat or barley or rice were domesticated, and so was corn. Okay. Again, pause the video and get caught up. Now, if we have all of these people living here with extra food, that's a big change from Paleolithic times when they just had enough resources to survive. There was never any extras. And so we're going to show that difference by drawing our Paleolithic Forager. And he's a pretty skinny little dude because he doesn't ever have any extra food. Okay? And then we have our Neolithic Farmer. And there's a surplus of food. And he has extras. And so we're going to show that he's a nice healthy thing. But the main idea is that people in Neolithic times are healthier. And because they aren't malnourished and they have better food, they live longer. Now you have all these people who are starting to live longer and have better nutrition. And so, of course, this leads to a population boom. We have lots of new people, many more people, and lots of little Neolithic babies. I'm going to draw a good chunk here of Neolithic kids who are now healthy and have enough to eat. Okay. Now, all of these people and the extra food together mean two things. Not everyone is needed to produce food or find food. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and push play again when you are caught up to here. All right, so not everybody needing to produce food leads to one very important thing called specialization. And specialization is another word for jobs. So because we have a food surplus and we have a larger, healthier population, and because not everybody has to work to make food all the time, other people, instead of making food, can do different jobs. Okay, and so I'm going to list some of those jobs. I'm going to sort of make a bracket on this side of my paper to sort of divide off my space. But they could have been weavers, making baskets or other types of carrying things, or other cloth. They could have been blacksmiths. I'm going to draw a hammer. Making tools and other things for people. They could have been a potter, making jars or bowls or urns out of clay. They could have been a tailor, making clothes. Or they could have been a mason, building things out of stone or brick. Since these people who are specialized had skilled trades and they weren't focusing all of their energy on food production, they had time to make their own tools better. Okay? So as they're working to make tools better and making things simpler for other people, technology begins to improve. Remember, technology isn't necessarily like electronics only. It's also any tool that can help us. I'm just going to write that it's tools. Okay? So technology that they created at this time were things like the sickle for farming, make harvesting easier. They learned how to work with copper and make cooking vessels and pots out of copper instead of out of clay. They learned how to make weapons like the bronze axe out of bronze, which were much stronger than any stone tool could be. As the technology is improving, a blacksmith might invent a sickle that would help a farmer, but the farmer doesn't have the skills to make it. So they would work together and create the first trade. So this is when trade begins. Okay, and trade is when extra food and supplies are exchanged for other items. Okay, and so not only are the skilled workers who are specializing and have special jobs contributing to trade, but the farmers are going to be trading their surplus food with these skilled workers so that the skilled workers don't have to grow their own food. They can just trade things that they make, like tools, for the food that they need. And that is the story of the agricultural revolution.